A lot of the reverberations will continue in society, but the court cases are coming to a close with the Supreme Court refusing to hear your case. That's the end of that. There's a few more truckers that are finishing up. Tamara Lich has, I think, one more day of hearings in her very long trial. The Coots truckers have all been through their trial, and now they're in their sentencing phase. And Arthur Pavlovsky has his appeal in Calgary in about 2 weeks. But each of those things feels like it's sort of coming to an end. And I don't think that many of them are satisfactory ends, although I'm very hopeful for Tamara Lich. But I think the country has moved on, and there's other issues. And I think the number one issue in Canada now, well, if you ask people, I think they would probably say cost of living, cost of rent, cost of food, inflation. But if you just push 1 ounce harder and say why, I think a lot of people will say immigration, mass immigration, unvetted immigration, unqualified immigration, in some ways culturally inappropriate immigration, in many cases fraudulent immigration. I think people are stunned when they learn we have 1 million foreign students here, and most of them are just in fake degrees, 750,000 foreign workers. You were on the immigration issue when it was very dangerous to say so. People would call you racist even for talking about it. What's changed? Why is it now slowly becoming respectable for people to say the things that you've been saying for 5 years, 10 years?
You're right, Ezra. When we created the People's Party in Canada in 2018 and our first election in 2019, immigration was part of our platform. And I was saying, we want to lower the number of immigrants that are coming to Canada, fewer immigrants. And we were used to have that discussion in Quebec because, as you know, Quebec wants to keep their culture. And, in every provincial election in Quebec, you have that discussion. Your party will say, maximum of 50,000, another one 20,000. But nobody will say, oh, you're racist because of that. No, it's a question of a discussion about the level of immigration that you want. So the debate is important all across the country. And we started that debate. And that was very, very difficult because, yes, some people were saying that we were racist because we were raising that subject. And at that time, it was a taboo subject. But when we created the PPC, I said, there's no taboo subject for us. And, I'm saying no to the political correctness. Well, I'm speaking about the facts and the truth and about the vision that we have for this country. And immigration was important at that time. It is even more important today to have a discussion about that. But I'm pleased to say, to be able to see the shift of the public opinion. And, you have in the newspaper, in the mainstream media, maybe every week, something about immigration, what is happening in our country. So, but they won't speak about the People's Party. They won't say that we were the first political party to fight and still the only one to fight to have, a moratorium on immigration. But I believe that because, what is happening in Europe, what is happening also in UK, and everything that you did, Ezra, with, you were there and you are bringing that to Canadians. In UK, it's like Canada, but there may be a little bit more in advance. They have multiculturalism and they have open borders policy. We have the same thing here. And people understand now what is happening. All culture are not equal. And when you have people coming from the third world, you are bringing that culture, and Canada will become a third world country. We need to stop that. We need to have a discussion about that, and we will speak about that again at the next general election. But because of, and also the housing crisis that is there, people realize right now that the real solution to solve the housing crisis is to have a moratorium on immigration. We cannot build all the houses that we need just to be able to answer the demand coming from immigration. That was Poliev who said, Ezra, we built about 240,000 homes last year, but we need to build 700,000 houses every year just to meet the demand. We won't be able to do that That's not the solution. That's not the real and immediate solution. The real solution that is under the jurisdiction of the federal government is to have a moratorium on immigration. Mm-hmm. And more people understand, because that's having an impact on the, people are not able to buy a house first, and also renting an apartment in the big cities in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. It's very expensive. Our standard of living is going down. We have more people that are coming to the country, but the liberals are saying, "Oh, it's good for the economy." It's always the argument. It's good for the economy. Yes, the GDP is growing, Ezra, but we have more people. And so what is happening? The pie is bigger, but our piece of the pie is smaller. The GDP per capita is smaller. We are poor as individuals because of mass immigration, and more people understand that now.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned the province of Quebec. A few days ago, the premier of Quebec, François Legault, said that if the temporary foreign workers left, there would be 300,000 fewer foreign people, and that would immediately relieve pressure on housing.
Donc, seulement 2 ans, on est passé de 300 000 immigrants temporaires à 600 000 immigrants temporaires. Donc, on voit une réelle explosion du nombre d'immigrants temporaires. C'est pas rien, là, en 2 ans, ajouter 300 000 immigrants. Ça met une pression énorme sur les services publics, que ce soit en éducation, en santé ou tous les services publics. Ça met une pression énorme sur le logement. Faites un petit calcul, là, 300 000 personnes de plus en 2 ans, c'est plus de 100 000 logements. On n'est pas capable de construire 100 000 logements. Si demain matin, ces 300 000 personnes-là n'étaient pas là, il n'y en aurait pas de crise du logement. Je le répète, là, puis je sais qu'il y en a que ça les choque quand je dis ça, là, mais c'est factuel.
I think he's right mathematically. To give him credit, Quebec leaders have always been a little tougher on immigration than other leaders. I think he's normalizing an idea that until about 5 minutes ago was not just taboo, you would be called racist, which is deporting people. I mean, it's one thing for people to come over here, but when their visa expires, or when they're found to be a criminal, or when they're found to be a bogus refugee, the idea of actually getting people to go home, that is still so controversial. I've really never heard anyone in Canada talk about it, but if we have 1 million foreign students and 750,000 temporary foreign workers, they're going to have to go home. And I guess you could call that deporting, or inviting people to self-deport, or paying them to get out. But I don't know if the Canadian political class has the stomach to do what has to be done.
I don't think so. I said it, and it's part of our platform. We need to deport the illegals. And actually, when you have a student visa, usually, after you study, when you have your diploma, you go back to your home, and there's no, it's normal to do that. You came in Canada to be able to study, and after that, you go back to your country. But all with these fake students coming from India, sorry, but that's the reality. More of them, the majority of them are coming from India. And, that's a kind of a fraud, because we tell them, come in under the student international visa, and after that, you'll be able to apply for a permanent residency. But that's not the case. After your study, you have to go back. And I said it, we will need to deport them. But now Trudeau and Poilievre are looking to give them a permanent residency. When you cheat and when you don't respect our legislation, why the government will give them a gift by giving them a permanent residency? No, you cheated. Your permit has expired. You have to go home. If you don't go home, we will need to deport you. Yeah. And that's the basic logic. If you want to respect ourselves as a country, we must speak about it and do it. But they're too afraid. Poilievre and Trudeau, they're too afraid to speak about that. They don't want their pandering to these ethnic communities. They want vote. They want to have more support. They want to win the election. But when they're doing that, they're not working for all Canadians.
You know, there's a lot of different categories of immigrant students. I can't believe there's 1 million of them. That's more than the number of Canadian university students, but they're not real universities. They're not at McGill or UBC. Some of them are, but most of them are sort of fake, acumen college. Like they're diploma mills is what they're sometimes called. The foreign workers we're subsidizing McDonald's and Tim Hortons, which are billion-dollar companies. Why are we subsidizing them and making it hard for young Canadians to find jobs? But there is a category called refugee. And these are people who don't claim to be students. They don't claim to be workers. They're just saying, life is really bad for me. I'm in danger back home. So let me in for free. But I just saw the other day the ranking of countries for asylum, like refugee claims. Number 1 is India. Number 2 is Bangladesh. Number 3 is Nigeria. And number 4 is Mexico. India is the world's largest democracy. I mean, I wouldn't want to live there myself necessarily, but it's not particularly dangerous. I don't know much about Bangladesh. Mexico is a vacation spot. I mean, again, they've got some drug cartels, but I don't know why we're even pretending that these are refugees. And none of them can come directly to Canada, by the way. They always came through a second place first. I don't know. I feel like that's the worst because everyone knows they're tricksters. Everyone knows they're bogus. Everyone knows they're taking advantage of us. I think that really drives people to hate refugees because people see they're fake. What do you think?
Yeah. But actually, we have 2 new Roxham roads in Canada, the Montreal Airport and the Toronto Pearson International Airport.
You're right.
So what is happening? Trudeau, 2 years ago, decided to change the rules for a person living in India or another country to be able to come to Canada as a tourist, as a visitor. Usually, you had to prove to the embassy over there that you have enough money to pay for your tickets, you have enough money to spend in Canada during your time that you'll be there as a tourist, and you have enough money to go back. That was a very important criteria. And after that, the embassy over there will give you a permit just to come to visit Canada. And after that, you go back to your country. But they changed that. They don't ask that anymore. So what is happening? They apply as tourists, and they don't ask them if they have enough money to stay in Canada. That's not part of the questionnaire anymore. So they're coming in Montreal Airport and Toronto Pearson. And when they're there, they said, oh, I'm not a tourist anymore. I'm a refugee. So that's why, we have a new Roxham Road, Montreal Airport, and Toronto Airport.
Yeah,
and
so
that's because of Trudeau. They changed the regulations. They're not refugees. You're absolutely right, Ezra.
That's an excerpt from my daily show called The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, and then I interview an interesting newsmaker. They could be from anywhere, really. Then I wrap up by reading my fan mail, and if I can, some hate mail too. We do it every weeknight, and my friend Sheila Gunn-Reid does a show every week too. But you've got to subscribe. Go to rebelnewsplus.com, click subscribe. It's $8 a month, and I hope you like it.